it doesn't stop there, because next up we have an issue that we spoke about and touched on in one of the zones. If you were lucky enough to be in the content zone yesterday afternoon, there was a chat between myself and lastminute.com. But one other key issue, which is certainly at the top of people's agendas, is all around the in-housing versus outsourcing debate. Yesterday we had a conversation with lastminute.com. We spoke very candidly about what this means. But today we're going to explore that even further. And to lead us through that, we have a couple of brands. But our moderator for this session, who's going to do this far more eloquent than me, is Ramsey McGrory, Chief Revenue Officer of Mediaocean.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So at this point in the conference, everything that needs to be said has probably been said, just not by everybody. So I'm gonna try to frame this up. I thought what Rob put out was an amazing agenda for transformation that every marketer should apply to themselves. When I think about, if I close my eyes and think about what a CEO is going to look at, or what a CMO is going to look at in terms of how they manage their business, I always think of virtual reality or some kind of interactive brand metrics with brand health and awareness, and I planned this much, I bought this much, this is the actual attribution. We're not there. I feel like we're in a gangly teenager phase of transforming the way we think about marketing as an investment in growth. And so I created a sort of a Maslow's hierarchy for media. And if you think about the transformation that's happening, literally at every level, the hardware, software, data, regulatory environment, organization, people, process, there is transformative change that's happening. And so from a business perspective, this is what each of us face. We also have a changing consumer landscape. So as you look at this hierarchy, it's all unsettled. The only thing that we have collectively agreed upon is really the bottom. And if you think about it globally, there are about 50 cloud-based providers, and really 10 that have any scale. Other than that, everything is changing at every single level. So, in-housing and out-housing, or outsourcing, sometimes it feels like out-housing, is really a discussion about what part of the process should you own, and as a marketing leader, how do you prioritize? And I thought Rob laid out all the issues. How do you prioritize what you do? So today, Marcella and Josep, if you'll come up, we're going to have a discussion about that, about the strategy, and even the tactics, like day in and day out, what are you doing? So welcome.
Thank you.
And Marcella has asked to speak slowly. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for speaking English.
Too fast.
Don't speak too fast.
For an Italian lady, yes, that is.
And I'll try to sign if it helps.
Okay.
So first off, I would love it if you would both do an introduction, your title, obviously, company, as well as some sense of your remit, your responsibility. So Marcella, if you'll start.
Yes. I am a integrated project manager, and media strategy, media solutions, and buying a senior consultant. After a long career that has been a little bit different, I think, because my career can be divided in two steps. The first step, the first 10 years, was in a publisher department, in the marketing advertising department. And so I had the possibility to understand how the product comes out. And then I was called by a client, by Danone, for a 15 years period of media and communication direction in the group in Italy. And I think that this career, it is quite particular because gave me an imprinting and perhaps a DNA, as I call it, that is to much involve publisher in our discussion, in our way of working, because I think that a higher involvement of publisher can help companies to find better solutions in terms of communication, in terms of also of media solutions. Because also in these days we spoke a lot about agencies, media agency, digital agency, companies. The third actor is the publisher, At the beginning, it was very easy because there were not too many publishers, a lot of television, newspaper publishers. Now there are a fragmentation, so many companies to know. But I think that if we were able to work with them, to know a lot with them, and to have a relationship with them that is between the company and the advertiser, we can find different patterns of communication. That is a little bit our philosophy, and this impact also in the way of structuring the media department in Italy.
We'll get into that a little bit more. So, Josep, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, Ramsey. How are you? First of all, thank you for having me here. I love being surrounded by this crowd of a lot of you longtime friends and some of you new ones. My name is Josep Hernandez. I'm responsible for the media investments of PepsiCo for Europe and for Africa, and I'm overseeing the integrated communications planning process, connections planning across the organization. That's the short introduction.
That's shorter. So I'll actually go to this next slide, which is, this is ANA research late 2018. It sort of validates what we know, which is brands are leaning in, marketers leaning in, and we know there's lots of different variations of in-housing, but you represent a beverage company, what's in the water, what's going on here?
I think what we have here, and many of you can relate to this, what you have here is a very clear sign. I think this is an inevitable consequence of what it is, our industry. There's never been a better time to be in this industry. This is the time to really seize the moment and really enjoy what the industry can bring. This is a sign of realizing that we represent the biggest A&M spend in the company, in working media. I think I look around, I look at Volkswagen, I look at Porsche, I look at MasterCard. We represent more or less collectively in this room, we were counting yesterday around 80 billion in investment. And so we have a great responsibility, and we owe the organizations a great accountability for this investment. Now, for me, the problem is not what is happening. The problem is why it's happening. And not losing sight of why are we doing what we're doing. And what we're doing is basically not in housing. I would love to remove that of the language of everyone, because what it really means is I stopped selling sodas, I stopped selling biscuits or cake or chips, and I start doing ads, or I start to buy media. And has nothing to do with that. What it has to do is with upskilling. What it has to do is with building the capability and understanding what it really takes to buy your own ad, not to waste the company's investment, so that you can generate greater wealth into society. We have huge investment on our shoulders. We have great accountability to make that happen. What this is a sign of taking accountability and taking better control of your investments. Yeah. Now the question, please, because I was in Programmatic Pioneers speaking a couple of days ago in London and in Festival of Media, and I guess that I got around 30 to 40 LinkedIn messages, and all of them start by saying, we'll help you in-house. You should not trust any other partner but ourselves. We're all transparent. We are 100% transparency. You can see there's like a common ground of building a business out of undermining trust. And that is one of the saddest things that can happen in this, in this industry, I find. What I'm seeing here as well is a lot of pain, a lot of fear of not trusting where my investments go. So I start to blame around organizations. And trust me, I mean, I spend half of my life with advertisers, half of my life with agencies. I think that by exhibiting the empathy that is required to the business, we're going to go a long way. Trust me, there's no 4 people. It's not 4 people in the industry thinking, how can I make the industry more opaque? There's actually hundreds of thousands of people making the industry more opaque because they're trying to make a living, just like many other people.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of pain in the industry, and there's a rallying cry for solving the trust crisis. And in doing so, it's just by understanding better what does it take to buy a campaign, and what does it take to implement media. So for me, this is basically a race to gaining capabilities. It's a capability problem. It's really not about starting to do what it's not our business. Really
so why has it been framed up as in-housing? Is that just an easy, convenient way to frame what is really a control question and a transformation question?
It's a business of thriving on silos. And being on a tower, trying to protect what you do so that you can drive more business for yourself. When we collectively, as an industry, we realize that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and when you put at the heart of everything you do the shopper and data, which is a key enabler of transparency, but great insights which drive growth and should be part of the agenda, that's when we're going to start unblocking the problem, when we realize that the whole is much greater than the sum of the parts. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I do think that we owe to the industry to stop talking about in-housing and to start talking more about upskilling and building capabilities internally.
Well, one of the things that I felt was very interesting in talking to both of you as we prepared for this was the human aspect of this. And Marcello, with your sell-side background,
yes,
coming into Danone with 5 years, focused on Italy, talk more about the collaboration with the agency as well as with the sellers, and what are some of the tactical things that you have done in creating that collaboration, but also beginning to have some ownership that you may not have previously?
Yes. First of all, our idea is that we have to develop, to keep, and to enrich our experience inside. The real difficult question is how can we do it? And the 3 actors, we have an agency, we have the dealer, so the sales house, the publisher. The idea we have is that we have to develop a smart approach to our partners in order to have a dialogue with them, to have some inputs by them, so to coordinate a little bit, to be an orchestrator of the process. The more we are able to put experience inside, the more we are able to understand what we can do together. Last evening, there was an agency who said that we are very happy that you are experiencing some digital activities inside the company, because in this way you are able to understand the results. You can understand our work, and we can have a win-win approach. In terms of publisher, the experience I had is that now we don't use them as we should, because a publisher is like a company. They have a product, they have objectives, they have a strategy, and they have their clients that are advertisers. So the more we speak with them, we are able to build some ideas, some communication patterns that you haven't seen anywhere. So to be distinctive, we think that if we spoke with them, we can have a better product, because the media and the digital agencies are agencies with a lot of skills and a lot of technical skills, a lot of tools. But the ability of the company to have a long relationship with a publisher means that, that they know us very well during the time. Also, if there is a pitch of you change your agency, you have a DNA that the publisher know and with which they can work with. In our case, with the marketing team, it was what also he said, marketing media are not different teams. We call it the M squared, or the double M, marketing media. It means that marketing has to know things about media, and media has to know things about marketing. Mm-hmm. For that reason, we have every month mailing day, we call it, a Danone day, media day. It means with an inspirational part in which we speak and we can to share with all the population, all the guys, the KPI and the evolution of media. Because if not, if anybody else is able to understand what is happening outside, it's difficult also to evaluate and to orchestrate it. The idea we have is that it's like one time we spoke about integrated communication process like a football team. We spoke about it last week. That is, there is a captain, there is the marketing director, that is the engine of the process, of the communication and media process. There is the referee. The referee has to arbitrate between or among different brands, because every brand wants to communicate, to have budget, to work on media, to have more budget, to have more possibilities, to have a digital, a 100 digital strategy. So he has to arbitrate and decide which is the balance or the split between the different products. Then we have the agencies. We call them the team agency, the teams who play. Then we have the specialist. The specialist is like a doctor. It is the research that is very important in terms of target. When they have the PR. And then we have the orchestrator. The orchestrator is both the marketing director and the media. The media is like a coach, has to orchestrate the different actors to have a distinctive communication and to be excellent. This is our ambition, to be excellent in our market, and also to amuse ourselves. Because I think that in terms of negotiations, buying, yes, we speak about cost per GRP, that is KPI, technical KPI. But what's about environment? What's about finding a program that is very near my target or my mom's? Mm-hmm. That is very important. I think that is much important than having the lower cost per GRP or the best affinity. And this is something you can build if you have a relationship with the publisher, if you know the program they have, or perhaps they come back to you saying, I'm going to develop a program especially for you. And in this way, also negotiation is a way to know each other and to build, I think, a 100% personalized strategy.
So from their Mediapalooza, all the reviews that happened over the last couple of years, agency compensation, shifting. Josep, you and I talked about alignment with an agency, and how do you create that collaboration? And you mentioned up-leveling, but will you go a little bit deeper on the agency relationship, the structure of how you believe that marketers should treat not just their agency, but their partners in that regard?
I mean, on this I'm very proud of saying that we're one of the founding partners of Omnicom. We've had the relationship between 15 and 20 years, depending on the market, and obviously we had our ups and downs, but there's something at the heart that you should be very proud of, a long-standing relationship with an agency. It's nothing to be frowned upon. And I think that for the last 4 years, I would say even 5, the tide has shifted. And it seems that if you don't put your account on review every year and a half, there's not an opportunity to create higher efficiencies, and you're not keeping your agency in check, and you're not having enough visibility. Are you kidding me? Like, can you solve any of these problems with your existing agency? And many times I sit with, and I've been in Poland with the agency teams, and I've been in Russia with the agency teams, and of course there's pockets of improvement. But I think a lot of the issues that you have are solved by having very updated contracts, clearer contracts with clear KPIs, holding yourself accountable just as the agency is accountable. One of the first things that we started is we reached out to our HR team. And what I was very keen on with HR was to understand how does our own compensation works. How is the HR system of the PepsiCo team works? And how can I get the agency inside of that same system? I think we should be applying the same frameworks, the same rules. We should have media reviews. We should have objectives at the beginning of the year. I should have a career development plan for the agency team. Because there's a simple premise. If you want to build trust, you need to treat them as an extension of your team.
Yes.
Of course, I expect transparency of my own team. How would I not expect transparency of the agency? And the thing is, for me, is a little bit natural. It's like above the line and below the line. Honestly, I've never seen the line. I just don't understand this thing of us against them. The first step that you should do on in-housing is bring your agency in-house. Like, bring them closer, invite them to the finance meeting, show the ROI reports, show your business targets. An agency thrives on solving problems. Like, really, really, where they get excited is solving problems. The problem is that we are squeezing here and then squeezing there, and that's changing the direction. So I think, don't forget, we've had a lot of conversations with many of you, an agency is the reflection, it's holding a mirror to your own organization.
Yes.
So if you don't like your agency, it's because you're not liking the reflection of your own self. There's a lot of things that needs to be wired into the system, and you need to hold yourself accountable to rebuild that trust. It's really not about us against anyone. It's really fixing the system and rewiring it from the ground up. I'm really passionate about that, because the problem is never, and the solution is never the it. It's never the it. It's always the us. When I was at school, at university, I was formed and trained as a professional qualitative research moderator. That's, like, many of you don't know this, but I started moderating focus groups to pay for school. And when you feel the other side, when you sit down with the publishers, what is happening with the publishers is an amazing thing that is happening. And I think kudos to ISBA and kudos to PwC for getting an agreement in the UK to get publishers share their SSP's fees together with us, sharing the fees with the trading desk, so that you see the full supply chain. Data is going to solve the issue. It's not about undermining trust of anybody. And please don't make your business about undermining the trust of the industry. Just look at how can you make the industry greater again, as opposed to generating and keeping people up at night and building high blood pressure up. It's not the solution of anybody's problem.
I would actually totally agree with that and say that the constant changing actually delays getting to the answers to the questions. Now, the agencies are different in terms of capabilities and focus, but I think it has to start with the marketer coming forth with an agenda, like Rob just did, and as you both have talked about, that sets the priorities.
I think the transparency goes both ways. The problem is that we look at in-housing as we're throwing people into problems. Of course, agencies need to understand that this is not about throwing people into problems. We just need to understand what does it take to buy a digital campaign. We just need to get that. We need to get much better at that. And we need to understand that first-party data bidding, which sounds fantastic because it's completely transparent, is actually less efficient than second-party data. The moment that you experience it on your own flesh, then you need to start understand what does it take to buy your own campaign. And one of the things that we're really passionate about building the capabilities, I'm starting this program called BYOM, from BY, instead of buy your own beer, is more, or bring your own beer, buy your own media. Just experience just experience internally, no marketer should be allowed to deploy a marketing campaign without pushing that button on executing a buy on Facebook or on YouTube. So we're really passionate about this. The agency is really helping us. Other partners are really helping us build that capability. I see it as a capability problem. It's really nothing else.
Yeah. So
And passion.
and passion.
And
And we've got
passion.
an Italian and a Spaniard up here. If we don't have passion, we got problems.
There you go.
I'm an Irishman, so I'm just going to stay. I'm just going to drink.
Passion is the ingredient of everything.
So, Marcella, alignment internally. You've talked about external alignment with publishers, with agencies. You know, there are reports from the ANA and eMarketer that CFOs question the role of marketing and question the value. Not just like 20%, 60, 70% of a finance organization questions the value of marketing. How do you work with your internal teams to align them around things like supporting marketing, understanding what marketing is actually doing?
I think that we try to escape a little bit from the CFO because we know that there are a certain cycle for the launch for a product. So perhaps we need a certain period to have results. And for that reason, we try to share the KPIs and the way we work. That is big transparency, but at the same time, the capability to know that we have to put first the business, the results, and that we have to give time. That's something very, very difficult now. There is no time to show or to let a campaign work because numbers are there to see, you have not done the result, so perhaps we cut the budget. No, it's not possible. It's not possible because we have to share the KPI. So also the culture, the media culture is not only with the marketing team, digital team, and agency, but also with the CFO, who has to understand that we need a certain time to work, to have results, and to let people work. And that's not so easy now.
Yeah, yeah. So I had mentioned this, Josep, earlier. Mediaocean and IBM did a blockchain pilot that we announced Cannes last year, and we're wrapping it up, eight global brands. And we were capturing PO to payment and the very clear steps on a blockchain in the cycle that happened. And fascinating things came out of the discussions. Not about the tech. There's a lot of hot air about blockchain. It has value. But more about the process of the brand and the agency. In one case, there was a brand where there was one PO for the entirety of the year signed off by the CEO. And this was a material amount of money. In another case, there were 78 POs that broke down lines of business and geographies. And so that, to me, sort of reflected the disparity in tracking and understanding inside of an organization what the impact is. How have you worked with the finance organization?
Yeah, I mean, in my case, I don't relate to what Marcella was saying. I think actually it's the opposite. Like I've developed, this is my new best friend, I must say. Like the CFO and the finance category team is instrumental into the marketing organization. They are leaning in, they are passionate about media in a way that it's humbling to see. And I think it's a galvanizing fact to accelerate trust internally. When we are I was just 2 hours yesterday on the productivity call with my finance category team, and they look at you. They have such a huge need of understanding what the hell do you do? But it's true, there is a sense of, I don't know, what do you do? Clearly, when we invest on media, there's an uplift on sales, something's happened. I just don't understand what is the productivity, what are the real efficiencies, how to ring fence money, etc. So So what we have done is hold the media organization accountable, just as the finance team is accountable for buying potatoes, for buying water, for buying ingredients for our products. Therefore, you have a global procurement, a global productivity framework applied, very strict on financial regulations. We take these very seriously. So they just need to lean into the media organization. Therefore, you start to talk about hard conversations. You speak to the CFO and you start to talk about viewability. They look at you like, are you kidding me? 1 second, but you're out of your mind? And then you start to question yourself, what are the things that really work? What are the things that doesn't? The truth of the matter is, no matter how complicated we want to make this industry sound, what it is really shopper marketing at scale. That's what we do. Media is shopper marketing at scale. How can we enable and connect the finance team with shopper marketing? As simple as that. And the leaner and the simpler that these pipelines are, and the cleaner they are, the more effective they are going to be. So I'm just extremely passionate about getting closer and closer to the finance organization. What you need to do, and I don't know how many of you, and I think that a few of you started to do, is if you put yourself the goal of, in your next financial report, start to report media numbers, they will start to hold you accountable. You need to go over auditors, internal auditors, I'm not talking about media auditors, no, real hardcore auditors where you need to provide financial evidence. And then on top of that, the internal auditors and external auditors. Hold yourself accountable to what they've been held accountable. You will see how transparency flows through the entire system because they know what it takes to buy commodities. They know what it takes to buy added value and overhead. That's exactly what we do. Just really shopper marketing at scale. Hold yourself accountable for that. So finance team is really the best partner of the media agents, of the media organization in this level. But they need to understand also the value of creativity that plays a great role.
In Terry Kawaja's presentation about DTC, there was the checklist of what are brands doing, what are DTC brands doing, and what are the CPGs. And that shopper marketing mentality is pretty consistent with those D2C brands, typically because they started with search or they started with social. Less so with the CPGs or with the large traditional companies in general for a bunch of reasons, right? And when we talk, Marcella, about that, it wasn't something that came up. And in fact, I think you've still got in Italy, it's the agency that plays that data expert and the attribution role. Tell me how you think about that data in the world where we're moving toward more shopper marketing oriented marketing. How does your role and the agency's role evolve?
We try to have experience inside. So the idea we have is that we have keep a lot of experience and to share it with the agencies in order to have inputs from them. For that reason, our idea is to have what we call a win-win approach. It means that we have to understand together the results, the inputs, because in this way, we are able to do a step ahead. And for that reason, when we think about our way of having an in-housing, we every time say that it has to be a small team about very professional people that are able to understand also the evolution of consumer with a lot of capabilities. And this is the difficulties, to have capabilities along the time, to have the capabilities today, to have the correct capabilities tomorrow. That has to be sustainable. And the third thing, we were speaking the other day, that has to work very speedy, very speedy team, because the environment is complicated with a lot of inputs, and we have to move very fast to understand what we are doing and to start to think about the new things we are going to do. And this is the big challenge I think we have now inside and outside the media environment.
So last question, and then I'll open it up. Just you've got Marcella's got Italy-focused responsibility. You've got transnational across several continents, you're setting a vision which is newer. How do you communicate that across the organizations? And then what are the steps you're trying to take to facilitate that communication, the collaboration, the investment in the partners?
Just passion and passion, right? So on a passionate side, like I'm really passionate about creating a tight community where we move as one. And there's the media digital community needs to move as one, and like collective checkups. The communication has to be real time. Yes. The problem, what I don't want to recreate, now I'm on the passion side, but what I don't want to recreate is bringing the lack of transparency and the silos back inside to the organization. So I have a group of people, of ninjas that can do media, but you're not even invited. I think this organization has to have a highly osmotic capabilities in bringing everyone in. And it's just so easy. It's just so easy. It attracts so much interest inside the organization. Because the truth of the matter is there's always, and you were talking about this, and you guys also were referring to this, is if there is one capability in the organization that we touch, from finance to insights to shopper marketing to creativity, that's actually media. So there's a point for everyone. The problem is many people exhibit a hero behavior. This is less about hero behavior. This is making hero everyone that touches the media organization. So by creating a common sense of purpose around media, and by enabling the organization to realize that through media you have a common sense of purpose. It's not about us, it's about their wins, to be honest. So that's more on the passionate side. It's tight community, but at the same time inviting everyone in, making everyone passionate about media, which is really easy. Everyone can relate to one of the topics of media. On the rational side, really the alignment with the financial organization, top down, but also bottom up on all the finance teams of the markets. It goes such a long way. It accelerates everything. For me, that's a clear component. And then bringing in, making you realize that A&M is, working media is the largest portion of the A&M, but also shopper marketing. So shopper marketing, point of sale, talk about the biggest touch point there is.
Yeah.
That is the highest level of reach, 2x of TV. There's 3x of brand awareness generated in point of sale, more than on TV. Like, how can I not bring them in as part of my media plan? I need to build an integration program with my shopper marketing organization. So there's a little bit of passion, a lot of passion, but at the same time, just hardcore numbers from finance to data, and through test and scale. We don't call it test and learn, but test and scale that you put at the heart of the organization, and it moves the whole organization forward. It's less about me, like, it has nothing to do with me. They are really good coming together, really good.
Yeah.
If he says that it's so easy, it means that he's a good coach. Because I don't think it's so easy. Yes, because
right?
it's a question of coaching, but I think this is not so easy.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to have the perspective that we have to improve it, because our challenge is to make it easy, to create a real round team together, and this is our challenge.
One thing before closing, if you don't mind, but see, I was sitting there and just taken so much by your presentation, because we're really accountable for what we're doing in the world. And when you realize how are we diverting media spend, and I think Danone is one of the companies, we're competing hard in some markets, but one of the companies that I get goosebumps, Emmanuel was elected today. I think it was announced as one of the CEO leaders. And when you look at the guy, not only rock climbing, but also doing the real thing, he's announced that the marketing model is dead and has died. And he's taking a completely different spin, putting someone like Valerie as the head of, as the CMO of the organization. What does it mean? It's just that it's much more people-led, much more brand purpose-led. Yeah. What it means is that we need to be accountable for our investments. So every time you put $1 in, you don't think about only your P&L, but you think about the P&L of society. So kudos to what you guys are doing, because we need to be thinking, and we need to be challenging what does it mean to be in media in the 21st century. Yeah. And it doesn't mean at all to feed on lack of trust. What it means is we have a huge accountability for our companies, but for the world as well. Yes. I'm really passionate about that, and I think Danone has been a great example of leading the charge on that.
Well, what I take from this is, if this is a race, it's neither a sprint nor a marathon, but it's a relay. And what came through in all of our conversations is the collaboration that has to happen with agencies, with publishers, with vendors, because it is, these are hard problems and they're not going to get solved immediately, but they're, I'm the paranoid optimist, which is it's all going to work out. We're going to be in a good place, but there's a lot of shit we got to get fixed, right?
And it's
right?
important to take the time, to have the time to involve the people, because sometimes we say we have no the time to align the agencies. That is a question of time. We have to do things at the same time to align. So please take our time to explain, to tell about the projects, to have the feedbacks, because we work in a hurry. That is the other problem we have now.
Do we have time for a question or two?
Enjoyed that. So I think, is there a question out there, guys? We've got mics.
Just going to spin around. There we go.
There we go. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Ramsey, Josep, and Marcella. What a great way to end the content in the main stage for Festival of Media Global. Thank you very much. Well done. Grazie.